Welcome back to my final beginner's guide video for Victoria 3. Today we're going to go over diplomacy and warfare. First up, diplomacy. When it comes to diplomacy, there are two types of things you can do: plays and actions. Actions first, since they are so much more simple. These are interactions between two countries that normally come into effect instantly if both parties agree. They can be things like alliances, relations manipulation, and trade agreements. Basically, if you want to change the way you interact with another country, actions will help you do it. Simply select the action you want and a target country. You can only send these to countries that will accept the agreement, so you don't really need to worry about getting a reply for very long. If a country is not willing to agree, try improving relations and trying again once they improve. Most of these actions cost influence to maintain, so make sure you have plenty in stock before you get started. Plays are much more serious actions since they represent periods of hostile negotiations between two or more countries. They start by a country making a demand for something. There are many options here, and most of them are pretty self-explanatory and boil down to one of a few things. The other country has something that you want, such as a state or subject. The other country is doing something that you can't allow to exist, such as legalized slavery or other political extremes. Or you simply want to knock the target country down a couple of pegs, either by reducing their prestige via humiliation, or force them to release any subjects or states they've taken by force. Each play has a number of criteria that must be met before they can be activated, so if you're hoping to use one but can't, click on it and hover over your target country to see what's missing. Once a play has been set, there are 3 phases of escalating severity. During opening moves, both sides set out their war goals for the conflict. During diplomatic maneuvers, the involved countries can attempt to sway other countries to their side of the conflict. And finally, during the countdown to war, the participants can make their final preparations, such as mobilizing armies to any fronts the war has created. At any point during these 3 phases, either side can back down from the conflict, but this will cause the opposing side's war goals to be instantly completed, often resulting in penalties for the submitting country. Once the countdown runs out and war begins, you'll need to fight to complete your goals or keep your country safe. When at war, all of your fighting takes place on front. These are automatically created when a war begins and will generally be places where the two countries meet, so land and sea borders. They can also be opened up by admirals via an action we'll come to a little bit later. All you really have to do is send battalions to these fronts to either advance or defend, and they'll do just that. To move units around, you'll first need leaders for them. For land units or battalions, these are generals, and for sea units or flotillas, these are admirals. Both of these can be recruited from your HQs and will come with a selection of traits. There are many of these to choose from, and each one will come with some effects for their leader and their army, such as increased proficiency when attacking or defending, and morale modifiers. Make sure to read all the traits before picking a leader, as they can have some serious effects on how well different combat scenarios will go. These can both be promoted at the cost of bureaucracy to increase their command limit, allowing them to take more units with them into battle. So now you have all your leaders, you'll need some units to go with them. Any available units in your country will automatically follow your generals, but eventually you'll need to increase your troop count. Unit recruitment is fairly simple. If you want more battalions, you build some barracks. If you want more flotillas, you build some naval bases. You can also activate conscripts during wartime, which will increase the number of available battalions at the cost of production throughput in the selected states. By changing the production methods of these buildings, you'll be able to make your troops more or less powerful in various areas, as well as modifying your training rate and power projection. Training rate is simply how quickly they can replace any units lost in combat, and power projection is how intimidating your country is and has an effect on your prestige and how likely diplomatic plays are to move in your favour. Some options also increase the devastation of a unit, which will cause the state the battle takes place on to suffer negative impacts to infrastructure, mortality, throughput, and migration attraction, but this fades over time so long as there is no more war. Now you have your units and leaders for them, but what exactly can they do? Admirals can perform their actions at any time, but generals need to wait until a front is available to mobilize and move around the map performing actions. Admiral actions are fairly passive, and only one of them actively helps with warfare. A naval invasion will require a general to go with the admiral, but if successful, will open up a new front on a hostile coastline, so it can be useful if the one front available is proven too difficult to take. Their other actions are raid convoys, which of course targets enemy convoys on a supply node to hamper the target's supply chain, escort convoys, which protects your ships from being raided, and patrol coastline, which will cause them to destroy enemy vessels along a target coastline, essentially reducing the chances of a hostile naval invasion. General actions are where most of your actual warfare takes place, and you only have 2 options to worry about. Advance front and defend front do exactly what they say on the tin, and it's pretty obvious when you should use each. Advance, of course, wants to be used when you want to take land, and defend should be used when you want to keep land. Stand by simply tells the general to head back to HQ and await further orders. This is basically pulling your troops out to prevent attrition and allow them to heal up before going back in for more. Now you have everyone ready to fight, and all you have to do is, well, do it. You simply send generals to the front, where you'll get a breakdown of your chances of winning, which will change over the course of the war as more units arrive at the front. If one side wins a battle, the front will move through the land towards their objective, where another front will form, and the cycle continues until one side gives up or the war goals are completed. At any point, either side can propose a peace deal. This can be a white peace, which sees all war goals completely forgotten and both sides just go home like it never really happened. Alternatively, deals can be made which will cause a side's goals to be completed upon agreement, normally favouring the side that's winning. And that's just about all there is to it and completes the beginner's guide to Victoria 3. But if you're looking at this and you're thinking you'd like to play something a little bit more space related, then why not check out this video here where I go over the complete beginner's guide to Stellaris.